Well, first up today, Donald Trump told Russia just about an hour ago to get ready for missiles fired at Syria, saying Russia shouldn't partner with a gas-killing animal who kills his people and enjoys it. The statement came on Twitter as the international community continues to grapple with how best to respond to the chemical attack on civilians in the Syrian town of Douma last weekend. Well, we're joined on the line now by the Managing Director of Global Strat, Olivier Guitta. Olivier, what's your assessment of what's happened in the last hour?
Look, I think it's a clear-cut declaration that the strike that we are all seeing unfold will happen. I think it's a lot of muscle flexing because in the past 10 minutes, Donald Trump tweeted another much more conciliatory tweet about working together with Russia and all the nations of the world. But all in all, I think there'll be preparation in the next few days for at least a French-U.S. Coordinated military strike. And that's why you've seen President Macron yesterday announcing that he will make up his mind in the next few days and that he will most likely target only Assad's chemical facilities and not Iranian or Russian forces in order not to escalate the situation with other nations.
So in your role as somebody who assesses international security and geopolitical risk, is it usual that a power would say we're going to do this rather than do it and explain afterwards?
No, I mean, it's totally opposite to any kind of military strategy. I mean, you're losing the element of surprise. So right there, you are totally correct. It's totally unusual, but Macron did the same thing. So both Macron and Trump are telegraphing basically to the Assad regime and Iran and Russia that they're coming. And we've seen that Russia has already in the past few days used its technology to scramble U.S. drones to make it more difficult for Americans to get intelligence and to conduct military operations. So by basically telling your opponents that you're coming, they're getting ready and they're going to cover as much as possible the likely targets.
So is that, in your view, likely to work? The threat likely to result in any change? I mean, this is a very long-running conflict. We haven't seen that anything like this has worked in the past.
Actually, there was only one strike done by the U.S. under the Trump administration last year in April. There was nothing else. I would put to you that it would have possibly worked in 2003 after the chemical attack in Ghouta when, the U.S., the U.K. and France were thinking very strongly of a military strike. Now, the equation is totally different than in 2013 because you have so many more actors, and that makes it even more complicated and even more dangerous. What I'm concerned about is that this strike could, make it a much more protracted conflict between the U.S. and Russia, the U.S. and Iran, France and Russia, if there was any kind of incident or mishap. And that's what's really concerning.
Okay, you mentioned Donald Trump's second tweet, which happened in the last hour, and he says there that our relationship with Russia is worse now than it has ever been, and that includes the Cold War. What's the reason for that?
Look, I think a couple of things. I mean, we're looking at, contrary to what a lot of pundits said when Donald Trump was elected, that Trump was in Putin's pocket and that he was elected because of Russia and that the relationship would improve. We've seen that it's totally the opposite. But what's really striking is that the relationship was as bad under Obama, but Obama was not ready to take any kind of stance or any kind of political clout to go after Russia, whereas Trump is much more, to say the least, impulsive. And in terms of what the response will be, I think it's a lot of muscle flexing from both sides, and that cooler heads would prevail. And as I said, within the span of just a few minutes, the two tweets are totally different in the tone and in the threat.
Okay, Olivier Guitta, thank you for joining us on the line. And if there are any developments in the next while on that story, we will bring them to you here.